In this video, we're going to talk about the third key principle of hygienic design: no collection points. When we talk about no collection points, we're really talking about avoiding things like niches, sandwich joints, lap joints, or flat or concave horizontal surfaces. What we're trying to do is prevent the collection of water or material. This is really about harborage. We want to avoid harborage points. Harborage points are any place where we might collect organic matter, water, plant matter, soil, anything that might lead to the collection of pathogens and their growth. So on the right hand side, we look at the upper right photo first. We can see that this is an assembly that included a couple of intermittent unground welds. And what that leads to is a little bit of a gap here. You can see between the square structural member on the right hand side and the flat fence like flat piece of sheet that's on the left hand side. And when that's connected with just two welds on either end of that seam, you end up with a niche point, and that can result in harborage. So this is a very common practice, unfortunately, because it's a pretty economical way of building steel equipment. From a structural perspective, there's no reason to have a running weld all the way along that seam. But from a hygienic design perspective, it makes total sense. And so, you may need to take a look at your equipment and think about getting a welder out or hiring in a welder to fill in some of these gaps, grind them down smooth, so that they can be more easily cleaned, and so we can prevent harborage. The sorting table on the bottom left there is an example where the assembly has taken this into account, and so you can see that the radiuses, the bends where the sheet metal has been formed to make a fence around this table have a radius, a fairly large radius, which makes it easier to clean and will prevent things from accumulating there. Also, you can see in that corner where the two sections of the table come together, it's a continuous welded joint that's been ground smooth. Again, these are the things that are going to make it much easier to clean and to prevent harborage. This is an example of a barrel washer that is different from the wood barrel washer we looked at in the previous video. This is a polycarbonate material that's been used. The intent was to lead to a longer lasting piece of equipment and make it easier to clean. And relative to wood, it probably is. That surface probably is more cleanable than wood. Unfortunately, you can see that there are these PVC slats in there that are in there for the very purpose we talked about the carpet being added to that other barrel washer for. It's to help tumble the material. It's to help tumble the crop so that it's turned over on itself and all sections are getting wet and being cleaned. And it works for that purpose. The challenge is you can see that there is quite a bit of material that accumulates underneath those slats, between the slat and the polycarbonate surface. So you have a smooth, cleanable surface, but now you're collecting material underneath here. So one of the things we might be able to look at as an improvement here is, instead of having these slats bolted through the polycarbonate outer shell, maybe look at fastening them with a toolless approach so that they can be taken off more easily when you're doing a cleaning. Taken off and put back on more easily, so that you can clean both sides to get rid of the debris that's accumulated, and get them fully dried, make sure they can fully dry and get them reassembled. The other challenge with this approach is you do have a lap joint where the two edges of the polycarbonate material come together. And, so that's shown in the bottom right photo here, where you can see the lap joint leads to a potential collection point for harborage. How to avoid that? Probably using some other means of fastening those two edges together, like a butt seam instead of a lap seam. And that could introduce more challenges, or it could be done in such a way that you avoid that seam altogether. that plastic could be welded, for example, using plastic welding. This is a fairly common piece of equipment. It's a rotary sorting table, and typically goes on the end of a brush conveyor line and spins at a rate that allows one or more people around the table to pick out and sort by size the crop that's coming off of the conveyor line. And it comes with this adhesive foam that's attached to that fence that goes all the way around it. And that foam invariably is not high enough for the purposes of a particular farm, and so they retrofit it with other material. Again, what we're ending up with here is another potential harborage point, or material that makes it very difficult to clean overall. So, what could be done here? A sealed foam, for example, might actually work better here, and something that's made to come off. Not using an adhesive, but something that can be attached securely for use, but then comes off and can be cleaned itself by unfolding or something like that, and allows access to clean this table. It's not just equipment. The floors and the building itself are worth getting some attention. This is an example of coving and curbing of a poured floor in a relatively new wash pack area. And the idea of curbing is it's a section of poured concrete that comes up off of the floor just under the construction of the wall. So it's a little bit of an extension of the floor that comes up from the floor, and helps prevent water intrusion into the framed wall. But also, if you incorporate coving, which is that rounded transition between the vertical curb and the floor, if you include coving, it also helps make sure that you can thoroughly clean that intersection where that joint where the two come together. We have more information available at go.uvm.edu/floors on these concepts. Another key area that I've seen as potential harborage concern is on sinks and tables with where the edges may not be open. This was a good example of an open outer edge where you can actually see under there, you can clean it, and it can drip dry and air dry and get completely dry after being cleaned. Sometimes these edges curl back on themselves and leave a little bit of a crimp underneath on the underside, which makes it difficult to get them completely clean. Again, we're going back to the first principle here. If you can't see it and you can't reach it, you're probably not going to clean it. This video has been about no collection points, how to avoid harborage. In our next video, we'll talk about compatible materials.